if you're playing guitar, should you be a tone purist, or is it okay to go with digital effects? That's a significant question that's plagued me ever since I got into the idea of multi-effects. You have standalone units that are available that just are magical. There are those, original versions of those effects that just don't seem to have good counterparts in the digital world. Enough mojo with the plugins and the multi-effects units. So they're kind of a coveted sound, but they end up taking a lot of room on your pedal board up. They end up being expensive. You have little to no flexibility because they do one thing. So you get a lot of bang for your buck with multi-effects units, but you also sort of compromise on tone. Or do you? The big question is, at what point does it just not make any sense to go with individual effects units if there's a good multi-effects option? Things like the Fractal Axe Effects. Is it Fractal Audio? I can't remember. Whoever makes the Axe Effects. Line 6 really started to capitalize on this a long time ago with very affordable combo amps and fairly decent tone. I mean, the idea of amp modulation at that point was still sort of a new idea, but they really took it and ran with it, and now you have fly rigs so that people aren't even using amps anymore. They're just plugging in. I was looking at Tech 21 fly rigs and the little multi-effects pedals, and it's just come such a long way that it almost justifies having one of those rigs for the sake of flexibility and for the sake of access to tones. I mean, yeah, you're not getting the original versions of those effects. You're not getting the Univibe. You're not getting the Crybaby wah or the Vox Clyde McCoy wah, or you're not getting the Boss DD3 or whatever digital delay. You're not getting the CE, the Chorus Ensemble. You're not getting any of that stuff. But damn, digital effects are just getting to the point where you can't really notice the difference. And I challenge most guitarists to do a side-by-side comparison of those effects and of effects units that modulate or recreate those effects, and just see if it's enough of a similarity that you can get away with having a multi-effects unit. So for me, way back when, I had a Zoom DSP, God, I can't even remember what it was. It was actually a Valve preamp, and it had multi-effects, and it was a rack mount unit, and I got rid of that. And then I had a Behringer V-Amp Pro rack mount unit, and I got rid of that. And I had a Zoom multi-effects unit, like pedal, and I got rid of that. And then I had, what else did I have for multi-effects? I had one other one in there somewhere. But I keep coming back to them because they're just so flexible, and they just allow me to access those tones, maybe not to the same level of quality as the pedals. But here's a good example. I always wanted an Electro Harmonix small clone chorus because I was a big Nirvana fan, and that's just the Nirvana sound. That's the clean, chorusy, come as you are sound, and I just fell in love with it, and I was like, yep, that's the chorus for me. And it's actually such a user unfriendly pedal in terms of dialing it in if you're going to do anything but try to capture that sound from that particular song on that album. It just doesn't do it any other way. You've got a switch for your depth, and then you have a knob for the rate. And I've seen people modify them so you can have a two-knob setup. I had a Fender Ultimate Chorus amp that had a two-knob setup, and yeah, I loved the chorus, but man, if you engaged the chorus, it was loud as fuck. It just was hissy and didn't have good sound quality. And then I got this pedal, and I'm like, all right, well, that's the tone that I kind of want, so I'll work with it. But it has a good 2-second delay before it actually adds modulation into your effects chain. So not only do you have sort of a one-trick pony in terms of tone, but you also have something that is sapping line strength out of your signal chain. It takes a while to engage. It's a big pedal. I mean, it takes up a ton of room on a pedal board. So if I'm looking for efficiency and the most bang for a buck, it's the little MXR pedals and the TC Electronic pedals that will sort of get me the best return in terms of real estate on a pedal board. So you have to ask yourself, at the end of it all, is it worth it to have these pedals, or can you get away with having those effects units that do it digitally? And I think we finally reached the point where you just can't really tell the difference anymore. There are still certain pedals that I wouldn't give up because I think that they do add something, because they don't necessarily have a digital counterpart. The Mojo Mojo by TC Electronic that I bought, the overdrive pedal, is a great example of that. It does not have a tone that really lines up with a Tube Screamer or with one of the old Boss yellow OD pedals, or a Maxon, or a Wampler, or a Friedman, or any of that. Any of those boutique pedals. It just kind of does its own thing. And it's also nice to just sort of like plug, turn it on, turn it off, and just get that boost or that additional impact on your tone. So there are certain pedals that still have value, but when we get into modulation and time-based effects, I think that the digital quality, and this really goes back to the Lexicon reverbs, the digital quality that was available in those rack mount units is now available in such a smaller multi-effect platform that it just becomes a no-brainer. I think for a lot of those effects, it's just the way to go. And now it's the expandability. It's the idea that you buy the box, and the box has a smart enough brain that you can upgrade the firmware on the pedal, or on the effects unit, or on the onboard preamp, or whatever. So much stuff is now plug it into your computer and access the companion app. And that makes it a pain in the ass to adjust, because you see front ends that are becoming simplified because the app is where you do the tweaking. So if you're sort of a knob tweaker and you want to do that in a live setting, you don't have as much of an opportunity to do that. But I mean, you get a lot of quality in terms of your multi-effects. So I'm thinking about my current pedal board and the pedals that I just don't need anymore or don't want anymore, but which of those pedals are really sort of the essentials still, the ones that I still need to keep, or the ones that I still want to buy because you can't really get good emulation in a digital format, like a Crybaby Wah. Is there anything that really matches up with that tone, with that particular foot switch option, that pedal board, or that standalone pedal? I don't know. Once I get the Boss, I'll see what it has for a wah function, but maybe it's enough to compromise. Certainly it would be nice to not buy another pedal, but instead to have an expression pedal that I can do more with. So we'll see. We'll see if it's an option that's available, and if I can get away with the digital version. But I think that guitarists, musicians, recording artists, studio people should be more receptive to the idea that digital effects are a good option, and they are a good way to access those individual effects that are just coveted and just are what you want and what you need, essentially.